So this is Factory Glock Magazines versus Magpul Magazines for the Model 19. Go over some good with the Magpul Magazines first. So what's really good about them is got them on sale for about $8 a piece. So great price there. They seem to be functioning very, very reliably with both aluminum and brass case ammunition. And as of right now, certain steel. Get into that a little bit later. Also, another plus for the Glock magazines is, whereas inside of the factory Glock mags, we have this metal liner. In the factory ones, we have no liner. Now, the biggest thing as far as that is concerned is these still do drop free. I haven't had an issue with that versus when compared to the factory Glock magazines. What is really good about the factory, or rather the Magpul magazines, is that without that metal liner, when you get into doing double feed malfunction drills, I've noticed that because it's just plastic and there's no metal to retain any sort of memory, the Magpul magazines don't have such an issue over time doing those double feed drills. Now, when you compare that to the Glock magazines with this metal liner, I've noticed that this starts to wear out and open up a little bit. One of the ways you can tell that, just a precursor, I guess you would say, is with the Magpul right here. You'll start to see that you load around, come up, and the magazine stays with the loader. And one of the reasons why I believe that is, from what I've noticed, is that this is starting to spread and it's basically getting stuck on that loader. So, now we'll go with a couple minuses of the Magpul magazines before we get into the Glock magazines. Oh, I'm sorry, and one also plus with the Magpul magazine is as far as taking them down and cleaning them. Right here, you have just a little button right there, which conveniently you can press a 9mm round into. And once you do that, you can take it apart. Now, contrast that to the Glock magazine, and without this little mag claw, you're pretty much hating it. So essentially, because if you got time to clean your magazines, you got ammunition, the Magpul magazines are toolless. If you really do come down to it, you can, if you really want to, you can stick a pinky in there and take that floor plate right off. So, with the minuses for the Magpul magazines, what I've noticed is that during training classes, when they get muddy, they get sandy, they get dusty, whatever it might be, I've noticed that without that metal liner in here, and you can see kind of how dull it is in there. Without that metal liner in there, it's a little bit rougher inside. And once dirt kind of attaches in there, or dust or whatever it might be, you start having feeding issues. And you can actually drop the magazine out, and you'll see about a ½ inch of space between the feed lips and the top round. So you have to kind of keep cleaning them. However, like I said, it's a lot easier to take them apart, and I haven't had a problem with swapping springs and followers and everything like that as far as between the bodies. So that's a plus. And the tool right here, mag brush, for the Glock magazines, factory anyway, also work really well inside of the Magpul magazines. So, along with not having that metal liner inside, one of the issues I've noticed is we have two different types of steel casings right here. This one is a Winchester USA forged, and you can see how dull that casing is, how rough that is, versus a lacquer coated casing from Wolf. It's a little shiny right there. The Wolf cartridges don't seem to have an issue inside because they're shiny and they're kind of smooth. The Winchester rough exterior seems to get caught inside of here, inside the mag body, and constant feeding issues, which is kind of good if you're trying to do malfunction drills when you don't expect to do malfunction drills. But as far as reliability, they're not there. So absolutely, the Glock magazines are more reliable than the Magpul magazines overall. However, I still use these Magpul magazines for training classes and range use. If I need to use these, it's most likely for steel, like the rougher type, or they are actually my go-to magazines. So with that metal liner, just to reiterate something, with that metal liner, that's why everything is going to feed through there. It's just going to have a longer life between cleanings. So yeah, so the other thing that I'd like to touch on as far as the two magazines is you see paint on the Magpul magazines. That's a couple different things. One is I don't want to lose them in mud, in snow, in dirt, dust, yada yada yada. And also I want to make sure that they're kind of labeled towards me. So as you can see, I label my magazines with my name, and then also with a color, paint, and that makes it really easy. I also label them with a number. Right here on the Magpul magazines, they are pretty nice there where they give you those, I believe, pen dot matrix, I think it's called. And so I just use a Sharpie paint marker and mark up my numbers. Whereas with the Glocks, just because for whatever, some of them I take a soldering iron and mark my numbers, and some of them I just put a paint marker on the other side. Make it easy enough. So that's pretty much how I label them. Pretty easy enough, I think. One thing I would like to touch on also is as far as the Glock 17 mags in a Glock 19 or 17 mags in a 26 or 19 mags or in 26. One issue I have had is I have had no malfunction so far caused by this. However, what I've noticed is after using Glock 17 mags in Glock 19s, I've noticed this little divot right here starting from where basically I'm over inserting the magazine, and it's pushing up on, well, continuing to push up on that mag catch. Again, I have not had any issues with that. Thousands of rounds through them, that style, and no real issue. Except for that I've seen that wear, which I would consider excessive. And I don't want that to be something that turns into an issue. So, in the Glock 19s, I run Glock 19 magazines, and I don't have issues as far as reliability. So, that's pretty much it. I'm going to put these magazines back together, load them back up, because an unloaded magazine is nothing but a really shitty paperweight. And you have a good day.